welcome back to another day in Kuala Lumpur, though it's actually another early morning in Kuala Lumpur. It's so early, I just looked up and I could see the moon up there. The moon is still in the sky. I don't know how it shows up on the GoPro, but there it is. You can just make it out. It's actually not that terribly early. It's about 6:30, but it's still dark. And yeah, it's a different world out here. Everybody commuting to work, all the students heading to school, everybody picking up their lunches at all these little stands out on the street. And I'm out this early because I have a breakfast and movie date with Matthew. My friend Matthew reached out and said, would I be interested in a traditional Western home-cooked breakfast? You know, sausages and scrambled eggs perhaps, toast, bacon, that kind of thing. And I said, absolutely. So yeah, I'm heading over to his house actually, going to have a home-cooked breakfast at his house. And when I met up with him recently, we went out for a nasi lemak breakfast. And at that time, we walked by this shopping mall. And I think I commented on something about there being a theater, like a movie theater in that shopping mall, and how I hadn't been to an actual movie theater for a long time. And Matthew went out and got us 2 tickets at the One Utama IMAX Theater for the new Guardians of the Galaxy movie, number 3, I guess, volume 3. So that's the plan this morning. I'm hopping into the MRT system, going to Bandar Utama station, meeting Matthew, amazing Western breakfast, and then a movie. And I was trying to figure out when the last time I was at a movie theater was, and it's really hard to do, but I think it was back in Taiwan. I went to see Wall-E in the theater. I think that was the last time I went to a real modern movie theater. And that would have been, I don't know, 10 years ago, 10 or 11 years ago. Because I think I had a copy of Wall-E on DVD. I was watching the movie on DVD at my apartment, so that tells you how long ago this was. But then for some reason I had this, it was playing in the theater at the same time. I can't tell you why this timing worked out. Maybe the movie had come back into theaters or it came to Taiwan very late. But anyway, I had seen the movie a number of times on DVD. I liked it. And then it was playing in a theater and I thought, oh, let's get that experience. And I went to like a big modern movie theater. And that was the last time I was in a theater. And this time, yeah, going to an IMAX theater. So anyway, I got to stop talking and get on my way. Yeah, I'm looking forward to both breakfast and the movie. I've seen both of the previous Guardians of the Galaxy's movies, the first one and the second one. And of course, the Guardians story is completely intertwined with that of the Avengers, the whole saga with Thanos and the snap and all that kind of thing. It's a lot. I think I've seen all of the movies except for one. I haven't seen the most recent Thor, like Thor Love and Thunder. I haven't seen that one, but I know the plot. And my train just arrived, so that worked out really well. When I'm watching a new season of a TV show or a new movie that's part of a long history, I like to watch recap videos on YouTube before I start it. These are like a recap video of someone who, you know, films a video of themselves telling the entire story of what came before, you know, in the previous seasons or in the previous movies. Oh, my train is here already. I'm moving along a whole lot faster than I thought I would be. A lot faster than I did on my first trip. I'm making all my connections right away. I just arrived at Bandar Utama station. There's the other train pulling into the station. And there's mine leaving. A lot of cars. So yeah, I'm here a bit early, so I've got half an hour before Matthew, he's gonna come here to pick me up. And the last time I did this, I got completely turned around. I went out the wrong exit, but this time I know where to go. Basically, whatever I would normally do in this station, I do the opposite. And that's how I get to where I'm going to meet Matthew. I was just talking about how I watched a recap of the whole Guardians of the Galaxy story to get ready for Volume 3, and I'm really glad I did, because yeah, it was a very complicated story, much more complicated than I remembered, because there were a lot of things I forgot. And as I was watching the recap, I was like, oh yeah, oh that's what, yeah. And all the pieces came together, where all the characters came from, what their origin stories were, how they came together, all of that. I'd forgotten a lot of the details over time. And I watched the recap done by a guy. He calls himself the man of recaps. And when I first saw his recap videos, I didn't like them. He has a very goofy style and a very cheesy sense of humor that he peppers in with his recaps. And I didn't like that at first, so I tried to watch other recaps, but I kept going back to Man of Recaps because his summary, I found, was the best. He caught all the most important details, and then I kind of got used to his style, his cheesiness, and the way he speaks. I got used to it. He speaks incredibly fast, though, and what I tend to do on YouTube is slow it down a little bit. I put it at like 50% speed and turn on captions just so I can hear everything he's saying and yeah, catch all the details. Yeah, he covered everything, like all the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, like any movie from the Avengers that had a relationship with the Guardians story, all the way up to and including the Christmas special, the Guardians of the Galaxy Christmas special, because there's plot points in that have, you know, that end up in Volume 3 as well. And as I said, I'm very glad I watched it, because yeah, I'm just walking in a circle here because I'm early, and if I go downstairs, it's kind of a very loud parking garage, dark and loud, so I'm just staying up here for now. Yeah, there were things that I didn't understand or didn't remember, because I had seen the trailer for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, and Gamora, the character Gamora, is in the trailer. And I was thinking, hold it, didn't she die? You know, Thanos killed her. I think he had to sacrifice someone he loved in order to get the Soul Stone, or power up the Soul Stone, something like that. And he threw Gamora, you know, spoiler alert for old movies, threw her off a cliff, killed his own adopted daughter in order to get the Soul Stone. So Gamora died, and yet there she was in the trailer for Volume 3. So somehow she came back. And right now, to be honest, I don't know how that happened. I think it already happened in one of the previous movies, but I can't remember the details. But anyway, she's back, but it's not the same Gamora. That's in the trailer, of course. That I think this all has to do with the multiverse. Like, she's a Gamora from another universe, now in this universe somehow. At first I thought she came back with, they reversed, like the Avengers defeated Thanos, and they reversed the snap and brought back everyone who died. You know, they all came back. And I thought, oh, that's how Gamora came back, but that can't be right, because she died before the snap. You know, before Thanos wiped out 50% of the universe. Anyway, Gamora's back. To be honest, I don't really like multiverse stuff. It gets way too complicated in terms of storytelling, and then nothing ever has any meaning anymore. Kind of in the sense of, you know, Rick and Morty, where, you know, Rick can destroy an entire universe but there are no consequences to that, really, because all he has to do is teleport to a new universe that's exactly the same as the one he came from, or as close as possible. So he keeps destroying entire universes, and then he just moves to a new one. So, you know, there's no more stakes in the storytelling anymore. And if you have all kinds of, you know, time travel and multiverse, it's very, very difficult to tell a story that makes sense in that situation, because you can change anything, nothing matters. Remember long ago I was watching the TV series The Flash. I kind of enjoyed the first season, the second season, however many seasons I enjoyed, I can't remember. But then it eventually got into the world of like the multiverse and different timelines. Maybe it was just timelines, not a multiverse, I don't know. But the Flash, you know, he went back in time and he changed something and destroyed all the timelines, and you end up with the reverse Flash, and it got so complicated and so convoluted, I couldn't understand anything anymore, and I just stopped caring about what was going on. Because, yeah, there were no stakes anymore. It was just weird. I couldn't keep track of it. So multiverse can be a bit trying at times. But we'll see how they pull it off in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. I just watched the recap video again for Guardians of the Galaxy, and I'm really impressed with it. Watching it, I could appreciate again how the man of recaps picked all the really important plot points. Very difficult to do. I think you really have to have a knack for it, and he put in a lot of effort into the editing, because he's not just speaking, he has video from all the different movies that he's talking about that match up perfectly with what he's saying, and I just can't imagine how long it would take to do that. I'm curious whether he does it all by himself or whether he has a team of people to do it, because wow, a lot of work. And yeah, I don't really understand yet where Gamora came from, but I guess she came back in one of the Avengers movies where they went back in time. So she's actually a past Gamora from before she was killed, maybe from an alternate universe, I'm not really sure. As I said, once you mix in time travel and multiverses, I mean, things get very out of control, and it doesn't really matter. She's back, and she's a different one. She's not the Gamora that fell in love with Peter Quill, aka Star-Lord. She's a totally different Gamora. So I guess that leads to a lot of humor in Volume 3. We'll see. Some other points that I completely forgotten. Mantis and Peter Quill are actually half siblings. They're both children of Ego, the planet, you know, a celestial. So they're actually related, you know, they're brother and sister. We found that out in one of the previous movies. And of course, we find out that Peter Quill is the son of Ego, the celestial. So in fact, Peter Quill has almost godlike powers. So I wonder how they're going to work that into the movie. I find superhero movies as well are very difficult to write logically, because they give them such unbelievable powers that they can fix any situation, they can defeat anybody, fix any problem, and yet they have to have a movie, so there has to be conflict. So somehow they have to write it as such a way that, okay, you know, Superman is indestructible, you know, is faster than light, can do all these things, and yet he has to have trouble when he fights a bad guy. So they have to come up with all these weird ways that he's weakened or his powers don't work. And of course with Superman, they always use kryptonite. That's the only way they can actually have a story. They always have to weaken him with kryptonite. That's, you know, otherwise he's, you know, invincible. And with Peter Quill, now he has celestial powers. I'm wondering how that's going to work into the plot of Volume 3, because he never used celestial powers in any of the other movies, but now he knows he has them. But exactly what are those powers? What can he do? And is he now much more powerful than he was before? And how do they deal with that in the plot? I don't know. Yeah, a lot of little plot points like that are now in my brain, so I think I'll be able to keep up with Volume 3 much better now that I have all that information crammed in there. Oh. Maybe my ride might be here. I can never remember what people's vehicles look like, and they all look the same anyway. Like everybody's car is gray or white and black trim. So there I am in the large mirror, and breakfast has been served. Pretty amazing. Check this out. Matthew's masterpiece. Toast, sausage, bacon, scrambled eggs, hash browns, the whole thing.
Olive grove butter.
Oh, look at that. Olive grove classic butter. Fancy butter. Yeah, today is a bunch of firsts, I guess. The first movie experience in a long time. Definitely the first IMAX experience in a long time. And then to sit down breakfast like this. So long ago, yeah, I can't even remember when I might have done something like this. And there's another first for a long time. That was the doorbell. I guess Matthew ordered coffee delivered. So there's two more firsts. I mean, when was the last time I heard a doorbell? I have no idea. And to have like Starbucks coffee delivered to your home, like right to your door. Yeah, that all feels very futuristic to me. I haven't lived this kind of life for a long time.
I don't know which is which. How do I know which is coffee and which is mocha?
Well, I should be able to tell by I take the lid off. It smells like coffee. You can tell me if that smells like mocha.
Oh yeah, you can see the color.
Oh yeah, okay. Cheers. And, thank you. Oh, that's so good. So is there something special about the sausage? I think you mentioned it before.
Oh, it's just a chicken sausage.
Oh, okay.
It's with some chili flakes inside. Supposed to be. It's a normal sausage with your hot dog. Okay. I didn't have time, or I didn't have time to research which there are those gourmet hot dogs. You know, because I haven't tried them myself, so I don't know how it will turn out. But this one's just fine. It's just a cheap hot dog. You know. It's a typical. Budget truck stop food. You know, not that you ever went to a truck stop before. You know.
Oh yeah.
You have?
Of course. Yeah. So, continuing small adventures for this morning. You know where we're going?
Yeah.
We're at One Utama or One Utama.
It's One Utama.
One Utama, and the theater is up on the top floor. And I think I started to talk about this before, but then I got interrupted. It's an IMAX theater, so it's like an IMAX theater, you know, a luxury theater with a big screen, and I think the seating will be kind of sort of vertical, you know, because the seats are really stacked up on top of each other. A normal theater, it's more flat, I think, but this will be a nice big screen and reserved seating with our tickets, so we know exactly where to sit. So, very exciting. So here we are, TGV Cinemas, IMAX, and there's our heroes, Guardians of the Galaxy. Matthew was telling me that there were TGV Cinema here in the mall, and then Golden Screen movie theaters as well. And everybody preferred Golden Screens, it was newer, but then this place shut down for a year. And they just redid the whole place. So now this is the newer theater, and this is now the most popular one to come to. I saw an interview with Chris Pratt on YouTube. He was talking about how he auditioned
This is Beanie
for every Marvel movie in history, and they always rejected him.
This is a different cinema. There was one with Beanie, is not this one.
No. So yeah, I think this is a normal cinema. No, it's cold in there. I knew I should have worn long pants.
So Beanie is a children one. So look at that. You can see that actually what they don't put downstairs now is all the play toys.
Oh, I see.
Things kids will go a racing track around there, and there will be a small slide, and balloons and balls for them to throw around. So people come out earlier can have a seat, they wait for that.
Yeah, it looks pretty nice. I saw coffee vending machines down there.
And then they have this place for kids to play. Okay, you must 30 minutes before the movie starts, and then the children get to play. There will be more toys, and there's another junior cinema here for children. That's the one with the...
Oh, all the playground at the front.
Sorry, that's not that one. It's Beanie. That's the one where people can sleep. When it goes to a bed. People go to the cinema to sleep. I don't know. And this is like cafe diner. Sponsored by Coca-Cola.
And over here, IMAX.
Yes, that's right. It's only one IMAX cinema in that place. Because it's 2 stories high, the screen.
All right.
Clear images enhanced.
Calibrate powerful digital speakers.
Laser aligned sounds perfected.
Prepare audience for maximum impact.
Audience engaged for full immersion.
The world's most immersive movie experience begins now.
And that's the end of the movie. Everybody's leaving. We all stayed for the end credits and mid-credit scene. I knew there was mid-credits. I didn't know there was 2 of them, mid and end. But yeah, here's the theater. And I guess the thing that's special about it, that what I like, is the angle, of the seats. They go down at a very sharp angle. So no matter where you are, you see the whole screen. Anyway, there it is. IMAX. I don't really know what's going on with the food here. Matthew took me down into the food court of One Utama, and there's all kinds of restaurants around here. You can have almost anything you want, from the dumplings to porridge. Just turn the camera around just for a second. You can see all kinds of different restaurants, every type of food that you might want. And Matthew had his eye on this place called Oyster King, but he didn't go for oyster. You were saying you went for clams.
Yeah.
So that's an omelet with fried clams.
That's right.
And fried rice and chicken wings. So this is our simple lunch down in the food court. If we're following any kind of a theme, I don't know what kind of food would follow Guardians of the Galaxy. That was a lot. There was a lot going on in that movie. So, but they never stopped to have anything to eat, did they?
No, not at all.
It's like superheroes in movies. They never have to eat. They just keep fighting and fighting, and they never have to stop. Yeah.
Not at all.
But there were a lot of alien races in that movie, so there would have been a lot of crazy food. But anyway, going to dive in here and have a simple lunch. Now lunch is over, and I said goodbye to Matthew. He's heading back to his apartment, back to his house. And I'm here in the MRT station heading back to my hotel. So yeah, going to the theater. That was quite an experience. As I said, I hadn't done that for a long time. And my overall feeling about it is I mean, yeah, it's enjoyable, it's different, but like that whole theater complex struck me as very elaborate. I mean, Matthew showed me all the different types of theaters they have. They have one theater where you can sleep. You have reclining beds that you sit in or lie in. Another one is for families with children, and they have playgrounds like inside the theater. They have a dining theater where you get table service with gourmet food, and you can just order drinks all through the movie and more food. And then the lobby area of the theater is filled with restaurants and seating areas and coffee shops, and there was a playground area, like a Hot Wheels themed playroom for children, dance music playing. It felt like you were in a nightclub or something. And in the end, all of that put together, it felt a bit overwhelming to me. Like, it's too much for a movie experience. Somehow, when I'm watching a movie, I don't like distractions. I just like to lose myself in the story. So a very simple theater is okay with me. The theater just has to be quiet and dark, and a place like that is almost overwhelming. It's like going to a circus or something. There's so much going on all around you. But of course, we were there in the morning, so it was empty. Matthew was saying that he normally would be there in the evening, and he said it would just be jammed with people, just be filled. All the, the little restaurants and the dining areas that I saw, everything would be filled with people, music playing, It's like going out on the town, which I guess is not how I normally approach a movie watching experience. And the theater itself, I mean, wow. It's almost like when you have a theater that luxurious with that big a screen and that advanced a sound system, you almost have to have a movie that rises to that level. So like if you have a screen that huge and a sound system that powerful, you have to fill your movie with explosions, like more explosions, I mean, if you go to a theater like that and you watch like a quiet, sedate movie where people are just sitting at a table or sitting in a room and talking all the time, you start to wonder, well, why am I sitting in a movie theater for that experience, And in that theater, the sound for me was so loud that it hurt my ears. And as soon as we sat down and the previews and the commercials started playing, it really hurt my ears. And I remember that from the last times I've been to the theater. One of the reasons I stopped going to the theater was that the audio was generally way too loud. It was painful. And I would bring earplugs going to the movie theater. And this time I forgot to bring earplugs. It never occurred to me. But I put in my earbuds, like for listening to like music, plugging it into my phone. So I put earbuds in, and that blocked off the worst of the sound. Anyway, hopping on the train. Yeah, I was sitting there and kicking myself for, not bringing the earplugs. I was like, I should have brought earplugs. I should have remembered. But then I was happy to remember that I had my earbuds in my knapsack. So I took out my earbuds, and put them in. Of course, they weren't plugged into anything. I didn't have music playing. I just used them to muffle the sound a little bit. And it made it a lot more comfortable. And something I mentioned to Matthew, he didn't notice it, but I noticed it clearly, was that the audio was out of sync with, lip movements didn't match up with the audio. And that, for me, that's very, very distracting. I can see it so clearly. I can see the mouth moving, and it doesn't match what they're saying. And that just sort of, it's weird when you think of a movie this expensive. How much money gets spent, all that high-tech projection equipment, sound system, and even with all of that, they get the audio out of sync. Though, as Matthew suggested, it's probably not. I mean, sure, the original movie is not out of sync, but they also had to censor it here So there were bits in the movie that were cut out. The audio just went dead when they were swearing, and so certain words were cut out of the movie. So I think they monkeyed around with it a little bit, and they added captions. So they have captions in Malaysian and I believe in Chinese. And I think when they do all of this work, something went wrong and the audio track went a little bit out of sync with the video. So I even noticed that at one point one of the characters would knock on a door and I could see their knuckles hit the door, but the sound of the knock would be like, quarter second too late. Knock, knock, knock. I was like, yeah, I noticed it. It was, way out of sync. That was pretty funny. And as for the movie itself, the Planet Doug review, well, I don't really know what to say. I would just say, well, a lot of stuff happens. In this movie, a lot of things happen, and to me, that's about the most I could say about it. I can't really review it without talking about the plot, things that I thought were wrong. I'd have to talk about the story and what people did and all the different characters, and that would be giving away the story, so I can't really do that. But overall, I mean, if you're going to the theater, as I said, for a lot of action, a lot of explosions, a lot of, a lot of craziness, a lot of things happening all the time, with this movie, you get your money's worth. But I wasn't pulled into the story. I wasn't drawn into it in any way. I'm looking forward to reading the reviews now, because there were elements of the movie that were striking. I mean, really striking. And I'm curious what people say about that. This is all in the trailer, so I'm not giving anything away, but you do see the origins of Rocket, Rocket Raccoon. As we all know, right from the very first Guardians of the Galaxy movie, he was genetically modified, that he was a raccoon, like an ordinary animal, but then they did experiments on him, and then he was genetically modified, and they added, mechanical and digital enhancements to his body. So that's his origin story, and we knew that, and in this movie, we got a lot of flashbacks to that time period, when he was being experimented on. So we basically got a, Rocket Raccoon origin story. But then that was mixed in with the present day, the story of the rest of the Guardians, doing their big adventures, crazy number of adventures. But what struck me is that the Rocket Raccoon origin story, that was very good. I was really interested in that story, and every time they left it to go back to present day with the big explosions and the big adventures, then I lost interest in it. I wanted to get back to Rocket Raccoon. That was quite an emotional, disturbing story to tell. Astonishingly disturbing, to be honest. And I think that could have been the whole movie. Like, if they made a movie that was only about Rocket Raccoon, his whole story, how he turned into what he became, and that would have been a very good movie all by itself. But that again gets back to how big the theater experience has become. This huge movie complex, the quality of the screen, the image, the sound, the seating, for all of that, I guess you can't really have a simple Rocket Raccoon origin story. I guess that wouldn't be considered big enough, or exciting enough, or colorful enough, dramatic enough to fill these theaters. You need more than that for marketing, to sell it. But if they had just told just that story and left out everything else, it would have been a much better experience, I think. Much better movie. And another interesting thing that jumped out at me is that the tone of that Rocket Raccoon story, as I said, was very dark, very disturbing, but also quite interesting. But it contrasted so strongly with the main storyline, because the tone of the main story was almost ridiculous. It was goofy. It was weird. There were things in it that were deliberately, I think, made to be laughable. Like really bizarre, dumb, cartoonish things where everything is a joke, everything is nonsense, everything is ridiculous. And that was one tone. That was the tone of the main story. And then they would switch over to the Rocket Raccoon story, which was very dark and somber and disturbing. And switching back and forth between those two tones was kind of a weird thing as well. It really felt like it wasn't one movie. It felt like there were two movies with totally separate audiences, different moods, and then they mixed them together. And they didn't really mix together that well. Like the heart of the story was with Rocket Raccoon, and then the huge size and the huge scale of everything, that was with the main storyline, you know, with the rest of the Guardians. I just remembered that as I was going to the theater, I was talking about looking at all the recap videos, you know, particularly the man of recaps, and he reminded me that we learned that our hero, you know, Star-Lord, Peter Quill, was the son, half-son of a celestial being. So I was wondering how this movie was going to deal with that fact that one of our heroes is not just a human anymore, he's sort of part God. And what kind of powers does he have now? But according to this movie, he has no powers at all. They just ignored all of that. So maybe they explained it in a previous movie that somehow he had celestial powers when he was on Ego, like on the planet, which was technically his father. Maybe that's the only place where he had his powers, and when he left from there, he's just a normal human being again. Because in this movie, that's all he was. He was just a man with some guns. And I mean, this is my main problem with superhero movies in general, where they give the heroes all these powers and abilities, and then they have a scene where they want something to happen, but then they have to pretend for that scene to take place that he doesn't have those powers anymore. So for example, there are scenes where Peter Quill is in great danger and he can't be rescued by anyone, and yet in every other Guardians of the Galaxy movie, he has rocket boots. He can fly. You know, all he has to do is turn on his rocket boots and fly out of danger. But in this movie, apparently, you know, the plot wouldn't let him have rocket boots anymore, because that means those scenes wouldn't work, where he's in danger and he could die and you're supposed to be so worried for him. And yet, in all the other movies, he could just power up his rocket boots and fly away, right? But also in this movie, as I said, he never displayed any celestial powers at all. But anyway, I guess I'm now getting into the plot, and I shouldn't be giving away plot elements, but yeah, it was just something that I was thinking about. And I guess I had the same problem with the bad guy in this movie. I had no idea who that character was. You know, he was the big bad for this movie. Never heard of him before. And like, maybe if you're a fan of Guardians lore and you read all the comic books and novels, and maybe there's TV shows about them, I don't know. So maybe the information is there, but I'd never heard of the guy before. And I have no idea what his powers are. They went on and on and on in the movie about how powerful he was. And then you would see him do certain things, but at no point did I learn in the movie where this power was coming from. How can he do the things that he was doing when he was fighting against the Guardians of the Galaxy? And what are the limits of those powers? Because in some scenes, of course, he seems absolutely invincible, so powerful that the Guardians have no chance. But then, of course, at some point, the movie has to end, and the Guardians have to win, so then suddenly they can beat him. So what happened to all his godlike powers that he had before? I can never quite understand. They play very fast and loose with what superheroes and supervillains, what they can do and when they can do it. Whatever is convenient for the plot, they just kind of make it up as they go, it seems. And then again, I kind of lose interest. I'm not worried about anyone, and I have no vested interest in the story because I really have no idea what the stakes are or what people can do and how they match up against each other, and I don't know. Yeah, so with the big bad, like I said, I have no idea what his powers are, where he came from, and yeah, the limits of his powers. I just didn't know anything about him, to be honest. My train is here. My final train to Masjid Jamak.